Hi there, my name's Ricci Riccardi. I'm MD and drummer for the Spice Girls. We're here at Coventry Arena and just took some time to catch up with Martin and tell you about Mapex and why I play Mapex and my story with the company. About 9 years ago, I met Martin because I was playing Paiste cymbals. And at the time I was playing another brand of drums. I was working with an artist called Jamelia. And I finished that particular tour and Martin had said, if you ever want to try a Mapex kit, I'm sure you'll love it. Basically for my next tour, I was working with Nadine Coyle from Girls Aloud and I never looked back. I took a Mapex and for the next, well, ever since 9 years ago, I've been playing the Saturn consistently on every tour I've done. I vary the setup a lot because I was a producer back in the day, so I look at it from a very musical angle, the drums. So drums is kind of the last thing I look at when I'm doing a gig. A lot of the time I find myself in the musical director role as well. So I'm thinking of the bigger picture and how the drums are going to fit in and all the music around. And so the kit setup varies drastically. Sometimes I like for Lulu, for example, although I wasn't musical director on that gig, I will make that clear. I used a 12 by 8 and a 14 by 14 and a 16 by 16 and a 22 by 18 to get that classic sound. Going for big sizes, low tuned, like really punchy, and just to give a thud to the drums. And then, for example, Professor Green, I would go it was a lot of breakbeat stuff, so I would really tune the drums up, keep the drums punchy, especially the top ends of the 10 and the 12, and I would have the 14 and the 16 low and thumpy, just so that you could get the differences in musicality between the sound of the drums. And I find that the Mapex drums they're very versatile, so I can work to get those sounds, you know, within the setup and the Saturn range. Snare drums as well. I love to vary the snare drums, although I do have my mainstays. And on this particular gig, my main snare has changed. I used to use the machete, which I absolutely love. But this one I've used the blade, which is a steel drum, and it's so powerful. I got comments from the rest of the band saying how they love the sound of it. And so yeah, I very much focus on the drums themselves as how they fit into the music. Then finally, when I get to the gig day, I can actually start thinking about playing them. But I know I can rely on the drums to sound the way I need them. So it's just the playing that I have to figure out when I get to the gig. Tuning of the drums for me is really crucial. 9 years ago when I did try that first kit, it was a Saturn 3, and I played that for a long time. And whilst it was you know, a great kit and definitely started my journey with Mapex, I'm now playing the 5, and with this modified bearing edge, you get a much better contact of the head to the shell, so the tuning is way easier and the resonance is increased. And it was the first thing I noticed when I started playing these drums. I tend to use, especially for pop music, I will go for a double ply or a thicker head. I think on this gig I'm using Emperors, clear Emperors, so even though it's a thicker head, you still get immense tone out of the drums, and it just adds to a lot of body and depth. And once again, when you're playing, it almost sounds pre-EQ'd, like you don't really have to do much to the drums. You know, we're not dampening them at all. They resonate perfectly, and that contact on the bearing edge really is a massive improvement on the 3. So if you play a 3, definitely get a 5 or try one. I think certainly from a musical directing perspective, there are so many more departments that you need to be aware of in a bigger show. We have the video, the lights, the pyro, the choreo, the creative director overseeing the show. You've got the show caller, you've got lifts and automation. There's so many different departments within a big show that you really need to be across all of that and aware of what is going on at what time. So again, from a drum perspective, you know, a lot of it is it's in my head, but I'm thinking of other things at the same time. You know, I really have to step out and look at the whole thing as a big piece of art, and I'm a very small cog involved in that. But when we all turn together, and that's a really important part of musical directing, and then applying that to drums. So just simple things like, don't fiddle around on the drums when people are talking. Like, you wait to play when it's time to play, you play. And on a smaller gig, you get a bit more time. You know, myself and the band, there's less departments, we get more time to play, more time to enjoy the sound of the music, more time to enjoy just, the drums, the playing. So I would say that the feeling of playing the kit through a PA like this is like no other. The bigger the gig, obviously, the bigger the sound, and when you're playing something like the SaturnV that has the increased resonance and power, it just feels, you just feel the power. You can see you're activating the crowd with the beat, and I approaching the music very much song-based, very much about the groove, very much about playing for the right part at the right time. The SaturnV gives you the palette to do so, and then when you see the crowd dancing around to the music you're making with your band on the stage, that is an incredible thing. Highlight song, I would say, something like Spice Up Your Life is just, it's amazing to play because it's that whole Latin thing going on, and we've got a percussion player on this, so together we just make a lot of noise, and it's great to see that. And on smaller gigs, it's just more intimate. The sound is, I feel it's a lot more organic on a smaller gig, so you get more detail in the sound almost. So you're not going for power. You can be more subtle with everything. So although we put a lot of detail into the tuning and everything here, on a smaller gig it's going to be more obvious because it's more open and closer to people. We're obviously further away here, so it's a big produced, powerful sound. But the SaturnV fits into both dynamics really well. It can be intimate and small and delicate, but it can also be large and powerful, and in every situation it works really well. Thanks so much to Mapex. I've got to go play now. Quick sound check and then gig later. See you later. I've got to go.